Hey there everybody, welcome back to another video on Hard Hat Gaming. Today I'm going to be going over some basics on how to design buildings in Rollercoaster Tycoon. I got some comments on one of my previous videos wanting to go over this in more detail and starting from the very basics, so let's get started. So one of the most important tips I can probably give you is using the shift key on your keyboard. What this will allow us to do is to place these wall tiles, and holding shift will allow us to stack them on top of each other to create an even taller wall that we can use for a larger building. Then we can select a roof tile piece and hold shift again, raise it to the top of this wall tile, and we can create a roof. The next most important key on your keyboard is going to be the control key. What this will allow us to do is to mouse over scenery objects that have been placed in the air, and we can place other objects at the same height. So what this is very helpful for is creating roofs. As you can see here, we have created a roof, and now it's time to use our shift key again to place more walls on top of each other, stack more walls, and create sort of an odd looking building shape. But this is just the beginning. This is how you get started with designing buildings, and we're going to move on to some more practical uses for this. So one of the most common uses I personally have for designing buildings in Rollercoaster Tycoon is designing restaurant and food court buildings for my park. I think it just makes it look a little more interesting. So what we're going to start with is using some window pieces. I usually use these pieces from the medieval theme pack. I went ahead and did no custom scenery objects for this. And if you want to go ahead and just lay them out in this pattern as you see, and then fill them in with regular wall tiles, that's how I usually start. I like to build sort of a like a frame for my structure that I'll then add to later. And so this one, it doesn't even have to be anything crazy. This is literally just a rectangle. It doesn't have to be that exciting. What I like to do is then add these little pieces on the side. Not necessary. It kind of creates the illusion that these walls are connected, and I think it makes it look a little bit better. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to create our entrance. This is not totally necessary. I just think it adds a little bit more pizzazz to this. I think it looks a little more interesting this way, using these kind of half wall pieces and then the canvas tent roof. I usually just add these because I think it makes it look a little bit more exciting, and I think it's worth mentioning also that this is done with no custom scenery objects, no cheats, no nothing. So I went ahead and just held the shift button and added those on, and then we're going to hold shift, place our piece up in the air, and then hold control while we place the rest of our flat pieces here. The reason I do this is because it helps me know where the support limit is going to be, and it will allow me to know where I can place my roof on this building, because for a lot of stalls and shops there is a height requirement that you have to meet to get when you place an object above your stall. So that's why I do this. So what we're going to do is hold shift again, and then we're going to place our roof tile, then hold mouse over it, hold control, and then place the rest of our roof pieces. And that's really the pattern that I always use. Is I always hold shift, place an item up in the air, and then mouse over it, hold control, place the rest of the pieces around it, and that's how I build these structures in Rollercoaster Tycoon 2. It takes a little bit of practice, but once you get the hang of it, it becomes a lot easier, and you can really experiment with it and make some really creative things. But we're going to do the same thing again, hold shift, place our wall pieces on top of our roof pieces, and we're going to add this little stripe across the top. Just something that I think looks aesthetically pleasing. And if you want to use this design in one of your parks, feel free to do so. I think it will make it look a little bit more interesting. You can mess with the wall types that you use and the roof types that you use and the colors and all of that. So that's pretty much it. That's mostly what our building is going to look like. I added a few extra details like flowers and a sign. And that's going to be about it. So that is how I usually build these little restaurant buildings or food court buildings in Rollercoaster Tycoon, and that's about it. So let's go ahead and move on to our next one. So the other method that I usually use for designing buildings is building a station, platform, covering, or building. In real life theme parks, this is usually to keep guests dry if it rains, or just to keep the station building safe for inclement weather and stuff like that. So we're going to be using the same method that we used earlier by placing a little frame around our station, and then using shift, placing a window, and then holding control to place all of the other pieces around it. So none of this is sped up. This is all at normal speed, I think. or actually, I'm sorry, I sped up a little bit. But hopefully you can still see what's going on here. I'm holding shift, placing an item up in the air, and then mousing over it, holding control, and placing the rest of them at the same height to create a wall design. And we're going to do the same thing with our roof that we did earlier, creating sort of a frame for our roof that this will help me to know where I'll be able to place pieces, because again, we're playing in basically playing in Rollercoaster Tycoon Classic here with no cheats enabled, and it does make it a little bit more difficult to know where your roof can go, and sometimes you kind of have to get a little bit creative on how you design your roof, and that's what I had to do here, because what I realized is that the entrance building for this abstract entrance design is going to be a little bit too tall for me to build a roof on top of it. So I realized that I'm just going to have to leave it open to the open air, because that's just going to look better in my opinion. And again, we're building our roof by holding shift, placing it on top of our brown roof tiles, and then using control, mousing over it, and then placing the rest of our roof tiles around it. So we create a little bit of a cohesive roof design here that looks appropriate. So as you can see, I left the entrance building open because I realized that I wasn't going to be able to put a roof on top of it. So what I decided was to put a fence around it. And sometimes adding these little details is going to make it a big difference when designing a station platform building. And this takes a little bit of practice to figure out when and how to use this. But honestly, I always just say have fun with it. Just try and figure out something that might work. And sometimes that challenge is part of the fun. So I went ahead and added some more fencing around the top, on top of these brown pieces, and I tried to get a little bit creative, adding some of my own flair. Now, if you wanted to stop building here, this actually looks pretty good. I think this is a pretty good design, but I went ahead and added some of these decorative geometric glass things. Not really sure what they're for, but I think they look cool, so I put them on top of the building, using, again, shift, placing it on top of the brown tile, and then holding control to place the rest of them around. And as you can see, this isn't taking very long. This is almost 100% of this footage is done in regular speed. So I'm not speeding this up. This maybe took me 4 or 5 minutes to build this. And in all fairness, I'm a little bit more in practice than most people. I've done this quite a few times, so I'm a little bit more used to it. But if you keep practicing, if you keep doing it, then it's going to become second nature, and these buildings take less and less time to build over time. And if you wanted to take more time to build something more ornate, more detailed, you totally can add more time into it. It's just going to make it look better. So that's going to be it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you have any more suggestions for videos to make in the future, if you have any ideas, and make sure to leave those in the comments below as well. I hope you guys enjoyed this one, and I will see you guys next time. Bye. Hey there, everybody. Before I end this video, I just want to say thank you very much for 1,000 subscribers. I didn't think I'd get that many, so that's very cool. Thank you all for subscribing and supporting the channel, and you guys are awesome, and that's it. Anyway, bye. Thanks. See ya.